I actively work with 30 plus coaches and I've generated them over $1 million in sales. And whether those coaches that I've worked with have been just starting out, making a few thousand a month, or they've been very established, making 5 figures plus a month, the most interesting thing is that they all make the exact same mistakes when it comes to client acquisition. So today, what I'm going to break down for you are exactly what those 3 biggest mistakes are and exactly what you need to do to fix them. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alex and Josh for short. Most people call me Alexi. And I run a marketing agency that specializes in taking the guesswork out of sales and marketing for coaches so that they can spend their time focused on coaching whilst still being able to get clients. Now, the main 3 mistakes at a top level, which I'm going to dive into for you today, are funnels, complexity, and maths. That's not going to make sense right now, but allow me to break this down. So let's go into the most common and typical one, a funnel. Everything that you see online is going to tell you to use a sales or a marketing funnel when it comes to lead generation and acquiring customers. And this is by far the biggest and probably the stupidest mistake that most coaches can possibly make for themselves. And the reason being, right, first of all, funnels do work. I'm not saying they don't work, but they don't work with the coaching business model. So what's important for you to understand is that you need to be using processes that align with the coaching business. The whole purpose and the beauty of the coaching business model is that it's simple. There's not a lot of complexity and there doesn't really need to be. However, like I say, the issue with a funnel is it adds that complexity into it. Now, if you actually think about the physical design of a funnel, and if you've ever applied funnel principles to your lead generation or client acquisition campaigns, you will know is that when you run your funnel and you send leads down your funnel, you lose 90% of the leads that you generate. That, first of all, makes no logical sense. Why are you spending money and time on generating leads to then lose half of those and only convert such a small fraction of them into clients? So then what that means for you as a coach is you need complex systems, which first of all goes against the coaching business model because it's complexity, right? To capture those leads, to capitalize on them, to nurture them, and to make sure that they don't just simply disappear. And it makes you wear the hat of a salesman and a marketer, which most coaches that I work with don't want to be those things. They're not that interested in lead generation. They're not that interested in marketing. They're not that interested in sales, but yet they try to use a funnel and then they're wondering why they hate their business and why it doesn't work, right? The other thing to note about a funnel and why you should steer clear of them is because, again, like I say, funnels lose 90% of the leads that they generate. However, if you look at any market research that talks about buying patterns and the stages of the customer's buying life cycle, 90% of the market isn't ready to buy here and now, right? It's only a small fraction of the market that you're ready to capture. So by using a funnel, you are physically losing that 90% of the market that can be customers and would be customers down the line. Now, a lot of people will say to me, well, what is the alternative from a funnel? And what most people seem to misunderstand is they think that a funnel is the be-all and end-all of marketing and lead generation. A funnel is simply a concept. It's an approach towards lead generation. And so what I've done with the coaches that I've worked with is really knuckled down and created a newer and simpler lead generation process, which dishes the downsides of funnels, but also keeps the beauty and simplicity of the coaching business model in line. And this new lead generation model that I've created is called a beaker approach. And the sole intention of it is to make it easier for coaches to do lead generation and is to make sure that all of those leads that you generate, you don't lose and that they don't disappear. Give you a prime example of that. I'm using this lead generation mindset and approach for myself, and I generated a lead in March of 2024. That lead and that person who I now work with, and we've been working together for 6 months now, didn't become a client until May of 2025 this year. So that just shows you the power of changing your mindset towards lead generation with a beaker, right? And I don't want to make this video too long and bore you, but if you're interested in learning about the beaker, how it could work for your coaching business and how I could help you implement it into your business, the first link in the description is going to take you to a page which breaks that all down for you. Now, the second biggest mistake that I see pretty much every coach making is complexity, right? They try to make things too complex and too crazy. Do you know, what's really interesting is that when I started out on this journey of marketing, lead generation for businesses, I used to find it really hard, of course, because I didn't have the skill set. And I used to make the mistake that most coaches make now, and I tried to make it complicated. I tried to set up the fancy funnel. I tried to do all of these different strategies at once. And as I got more and more established and as the years have gone on, what I've realized is that it is really simple. To effectively generate leads online, you don't need a complex funnel with a fancy landing page, with a complex pixel set up with your ads if you've ever touched any of that stuff. You don't need to blast cold outreach. You don't need to rely on organic content and be dancing on camera to try and get views to get leads. All you need to do is it's literally as simple as this. You have one Instagram page, which acts as your shop front, as I call it. So to give you a little bit of context on that, think of any in-person business. They've got a sign and a shop window with products in to show you what they're about. Our equivalent of that is social media. We build out a social media that does that. We then run one simple ad campaign to that social media page, generating all the leads to follow that page, essentially. And then all we do is all of those leads that follow, you message them, you book them in for a call, and you turn them into a sale. How simple is that? The main thing that the main mistake that coaches make is that they overcomplicate absolutely all of these steps, right? So they try and do a little bit of cold outreach, a little bit of organic content, they rely on referrals, and they wonder why nothing's happening. And this sort of ties into the same point, but the other biggest thing that I see a lot of coaches making is they wait for things to magically happen. They wait for their network to refer them. They wait for the lead that they spoke to once 2 months ago who told them there's going to come back. They keep posting content that isn't working and still think that that's magically going to convert and turn things around. It's very, very, very simple. It doesn't need to be complex. It doesn't need to be difficult. You just need to take action and take a few little steps in place to make it work. So like I say, you build out a solid social media page for one client avatar, promising to solve one transformation and showing that you solve one overarching problem. You make yourself look like an expert on that page with the content you put on it. You drive traffic to that page with one simple ad campaign, which is a 60-second video, which you can make in literally 10 minutes. Get people to follow, you message them, it's simple as that. You don't need to do VSLs, you don't need to do book a call funnels, you don't need to offer crappy lead magnets that no one even reads or downloads. It literally just needs to be that simple. And the $1 million in client sales that I've done for the guys that I'm working with has literally been as simple as that, right? And you don't need complex tech. It doesn't need to be complicated whatsoever. Like I say, going back to what I said at the start, the purpose of the coaching business model is that it's simple, and that's the beauty of it. And so when you make everything else that you're doing within your business align with that principle, everything just becomes easy. Literally, it just does. And to back that up, again, you can go on my page, you can see the testimonials and the case studies. This isn't made up. This is real life, and this is how simple it really can be. And that leads me to my last, final, and third point, which is numbers or maths. You're probably thinking, what on earth am I talking about here? But once you build a proper engine with proper systems, you ditch funnels, you use a really simple beaker approach, because you are generating customers with advertising spend, if you track that data properly and religiously, you turn your business into a mathematical engine. So here's what I mean by that. With the coaches that I currently work with, we run their ads, they spend X amount of money on ads in a month. So let's say, for example, somebody spends £500 in a month on adverts. You don't need a big crazy budget. Right? Some of them do, some of them are on low budgets. Like I say, I work with a range of people. Let's say you're spending £500 a month on ads, okay? And let's say every £500 you spend on adverts, it's bringing you about 2 customers in the month, okay? And those 2 customers in the month are making you £4,000 as an example, right? So you've got an 8x return on your money. You're putting £500 in, you're getting £4,000 out. It's very, very common with the beaker approach when you ditch the funnels. Now, when you track those numbers and you track that data, what that means is every £250 you spend, you will make a sale. Because we spent 500 in a month, we made 2 sales, 500 divided by 2 is 250. So every £250 that you spend, you make a sale for your coaching business. And if you can track your numbers and your data like that, then you can grow and push this to whatever level you pretty much want it to get to. Because then it's just a reverse engineering, right? So your cost per acquisition is £250. And if you said to me, I want 10 clients in the month, if you spent, all you have to do is do 10 times your cost per acquisition, which in this example would equal £2,500. And if you spent £2,500, that would bring you 10 customers at £2,000 each, making you £20,000 in revenue. It is literally that simple. There's nothing more to it. And the biggest mistake when it comes to this and why I'm bringing this up is because when I jump on calls with coaches or they're interested in working with me, I'll ask them questions like, what's your cost per booked call at the moment? What's your cost per acquisition? What's your cost per lead? Nobody ever knows the answers to these questions, and they're wondering why they're stuck and why they can't grow. But once you know these numbers, once you understand this data, and once you can grow it, you build an engine, and getting clients becomes easy. But those are the 3 core mistakes that pretty much every single coach makes that I speak to without fail. And if you can do those 3 things, if you can ditch the complex funnels and use a simple beaker, if you can focus on simplicity rather than complexity and actually take action on lead generation, and if you can then track your numbers and your data so you know what you need to put in to determine what you want to get out, you will build the business you want. And again, check out all of my case studies across these pages. This isn't just hot air. This is real life, and the coaches I work with get real results with this. Now, if you want to see how this works and how it could work for yourself, again, like I said, there's a link below with a little video on it explaining it in a little bit more detail. And then if you're interested, you can also book a call to chat with me as well. But I hope you found that useful. If you have any questions, please do let me know, and I'll see you in the next video.